Welcome back, fifth graders. This is lesson 7 of chapter 2. Our essential question is still the same. What strategies can be used to multiply whole numbers? And today we're going to be talking about the distributive property. That is a strategy that you can use to multiply whole numbers. And this has got to be one of my favorite properties in math. And perhaps you already use it and you didn't know the formal name for it, but this particular, sometimes I like to call these properties magic tricks. This particular math magic trick is called the distributive property. So let's get started. So if you look at the top of page 119, so I will put this at the top. Let's see, I'll put it over here, might work better. So this is going to be page 119 in your math book. And at the top, it says the distributive property allows you to multiply a sum by a number. To do so, multiply each addend by the number, then add. So there's quite a bit of vocabulary, quite a bit of math words in just those few sentences. So let's break that down a little bit. So the distributive property, you notice that is a new vocabulary word or phrase because of course it's highlighted in yellow. And we're going to be talking a lot about the distributive property today in this lesson. So I'm not going to talk a lot about that yet. So a sum, that's the answer to an addition problem. And an addend, that is one of the things that you add together in an addition problem. So for example, here's an example. So if you have this problem here, 3 times 5 plus 2, basically how you can think about this problem is you can say 3 times 5 plus 3 times 2. And they show that over here. The parentheses are just there. These are these little, guess they look like sideways smiley faces. So the parentheses are just there to show you which numbers are grouped together. So like I said, another way you can think of this particular problem here on the left side of the equal sign is you can say 3 times 5, like they do here on the right side of the equal sign, plus 3 times 2, which they do right here. And then of course, you would actually do the multiplication for each and you would get your answer. So they're just showing that those are two similar ways, two equal ways to think about a particular problem. So let's look at the first example, Math in My World. Example 1. For a field trip, 42 students each paid $3 for transportation. Use mental math, that means math in your head. So use mental math and the distributive property to find how much money was collected altogether. So we have 42 students times $3 per student. So this ends up being our multiplication problem, either 3 times 42 or 42 times 3, however you want to think about it. And for those of you who used the box method last year for multiplication, this is going to look a little bit familiar to you. So what you could do is think about 42. You have 4 tens that are worth 40, and you have 2 ones that are worth 2. So basically what you do is you make this look like one of those multiplication problems, perhaps from last year if you use the box method, and you do 3 times 40, that will obviously give you 120. And then if you do 3 times 2, you'll get 6. So obviously you'll get your answer if you add the yellow and the green section together. So 120 plus 6. So let's write this out in some mathematical ways. So if you just follow the steps, step 1 says, write 42 as 40 plus 2, which you would normally do anyway if you were using the box method for multiplication. So our original problem was 3 times 42. So what we're going to do is we're going to rewrite that. we can write that as 3 times 40, because that's the tens part, plus 3, and just follow the arrow, 3 times 2, that's the ones part. So you should have a 40 in the first blank, a 2 in the second blank. And then it says, step 2, apply the distributive property. So you're going to do 3 times 40. So that's the first multiplication problem you're going to do. And then you're going to do 3 times 2. That's going to be the second multiplication problem that you do. And that's why the parentheses are there, just to show that you'll do this multiplication problem, get an answer, then you'll do this multiplication problem, get an answer, and then you will add your products together. So as we said up above when we had our picture of our yellow and green section, 3 times 40 is 120. 3 times 2 is 6. And then if you add those together, 120 plus 6, your answer is going to be 126. And remember, we were talking about money. We were talking about dollars collected for transportation for a field trip. So it says $126 was collected for the field trip. Okay, so that's page 119. So make sure you have all of those blanks filled in for page 119. Let's turn the page to 120 and practice the distributive property a little bit more. All right, so at the top of page 120, and I'll write this at the top. Example 2 says, find 7 times 26 mentally, that means mostly in your head, using the distributive property. Show the steps that you used. So eventually you might be able to do this all in your head mentally, but if you have to write out some steps just to get used to the distributive property, that's fine. I don't think that, I know I won't mind if I see those steps on your paper. I know Mrs. Davis won't mind, and actually I think that might be part of the directions for your independent practice. Because it says here, too, it says show the steps that you used. So yes, they want you to think about it mentally, but there is a portion of it that you need to write down as well. All right, so in order to do 7 times 26, we are going to write, step 1, we are going to write 26 as 20 plus 6. So our original problem, 7 times 26, it's going to be 7 times 20, that's the first part, plus 7 times 6. And these little arrows here show us what we are going to be multiplying. They show us that we are going to distribute the 7 throughout this whole, through the whole inside of the parentheses. So what I mean by distribute is you are going to multiply the 7 times every addend inside of this parentheses. So you're going to do 7 times 20. Write that there for step 2. And then you're going to do 7 times 6. All right, so we've completed step 2, apply the distributive property. So now we have 2 multiplication problems to complete. So that's what we do for step 3 is we actually multiply. So 7 times 20 is going to be, let's see, 7 times 2 is 14, and then place my 0 back in my answer, 140. And then just a regular multiplication fact for the second part, 7 times 6 is 42. And then you need to add your products together. So 140 is called a partial product. 42 is called a partial product. And then you are going to add those 2 partial products together. So our answer should be 182. So 7 times 26 is 182. 2. And that's example 2. So let's do a little bit of the guided practice. And this would be a good point for you to pause the video if you wanted to try some of these on your own. So this would be a good point to pause the video. You've seen 2 examples. I definitely know that doesn't make you an expert, but this would be a good point to pause the video and try the guided practice on your own. And then, once you fill in the blanks, or you think you filled in the blanks correctly, turn it back on and check your work. So the guided practice says, find each product mentally, so in your head as much as you can, using the distributive property, show the steps that you used. So the directions are exactly the same as in example 2. So if you did in fact pause the video, check your work, see that the numbers that you have in your blanks are correct. If not, obviously feel free to erase and change. So 5 times 18, we are going to rewrite that. We are going to split 18 into 10 and 8. So basically you're just separating the value of the 1 in the tens place from the value of the 8 in the ones place. I hope I said that correctly. The value of the 1 in the tens place is 10, and the value of the 8 in the ones place is 8. There, I think I got it. And then what you do is you multiply this 5 times each addend inside of the parentheses. So it would be 5 times 10. So that's what we put here, 5 times 10. That makes our first multiplication problem. And then you have to do 5 times, you've already done the 10, so now you're going to do the 8 plus 5 times 8. Step 3 is complete your multiplication. So 5 times 10 is 50. 5 times 8 is 40. Step 4, add 50 plus 40 is 90. So 5 times 18 is going to give you 90. Good. If you didn't pause the video before number 1, this might be, if you feel a little more confident now, this would be a good place to pause. Try number 2 on your own, and then turn the video back on and check your work. All right. So whether you paused your video or not, we're going to go ahead and move forward. Number 2 says 2 times 21. And I think you guys could all do this one just because you could do 21 plus 21 and you can get an answer. But we'll use the distributive property for this just as another example. So 2 times 21, we're going to split 21 up into the value of the tens, which would be 20, and the value of the ones, which would be 1. We're going to distribute the 2 through each addend in the parentheses. So 2 times 20, and then 2 times 1. So basically we end up getting 2 times 20 is 40, 2 times 1 is 2, and then of course the answer you come up with should be 42. All right. So yes, there are other strategies. Like I said, there's another multiplication strategy for doing 21 times 2 or 2 times 21. Since it's just doubling, you could do 21 plus 21. That would be the easier strategy. That's the one I would probably use, but in this case, we were just practicing the distributive property. So if you are in Miss Davis's class, you are done. And if you are in Mrs. Marcos' class, then what I would like you to do for a little bit of practice on your own, so only Mrs. Marcos' class. For Mrs. Marcos' class, I would like you to come not only with pages 119 and 120 done, but I would like you to try number 3 and number 4 on page 121, okay? If you are in Miss Davis's class, I think she wants you to wait. This is perhaps going to be part of your in-class work. All right, thanks for watching, and give that distributive property a try.